Hello everyone. Trust you all are doing great. We are back with a new session on EIE Fresh Talk episode 4. I thank you all for enrolling yourself for this event. We shall start the session with a silent prayer for a minute. Thank you everyone. Excellent Excel welcomes you all. Let me give you a gist of what are we all about. We are into data analytics and the solutions are built with scalability, security and performance in mind. It is managed by a team of experienced professionals from the fields of technology, finance and operations. We have started a brand new talk show, EIE Fresh Talk, where we are hosting great leaders and experts from various fields to speak regularly on a variety of topics. Our topic for this session is 5 must-have charts in any finance person's toolbox by Chandu. As you all are aware, charts are often used to ease understanding of large quantities of data and the relationships between parts of the data. Charts can usually be read more quickly than the raw data. Common charts like line charts, bar, or pie charts can make it easy and clear for people to analyze the results or trends. However, the biggest challenge is how to select the most effective type of chart for your task. Our today's expert speaker, Mr. Chandu, will help to decode this challenge and help us learn and understand more about charts. I'm glad to introduce our speaker of the session, Mr. Chandu. Chandu is the nickname of Puran Chandra Rao, and this is how he is known all over the world of technology. He has been a Microsoft MVP since 2009. He is passionate about data analytics and visualization, and his blog articles, training materials, and videos are amongst the most sought after among the people thirsting for Excel knowledge. Chandu is so much passionate about Excel that he has also named his dog as Excel. He holds an MBA from IIM Indore and is a computer science graduate from Andhra University. Participants, please welcome our speaker for today's session. I request you all to write hi in the chat box and welcome our expert speaker, Mr. Chandu. Before I hand over the session to Mr. Chandu, I request all the audience to let us know any of your questions, doubts, if any, by typing the same in the live chat box in YouTube. The questions or doubts will be answered by the speaker at the end of the session, subject to availability of timing. Thank you. Mr. Chandu, over to you.
Thank
Hello,
you,
Nihal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my thoughts on how to have charts for the finance people. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you all virtually. And I have a very short presentation, and then we will jump into Excel. So this session, we will cover 5 different charts. I'll get into more details through the PowerPoint and Excel anyway. Let me just do a screen share here. I think this might. So because I can't really ensure that everything is sharing, Deepak, let me know if there is any problem with my screen share, but I'm hoping that it's all good. So this session is called 5 must-have charts for finance people. And this actually showcases 5 different charts. They kind of grow in difficulty. So the first chart is, you could probably say, the easiest of all, but the fifth one, it kind of builds up. And depending on your familiarity with Excel or data analytics, you will find yourself somewhere along that spectrum. Some of you might even know all the 5, in which case it may not be very useful, but I'm hoping that you will still find some valuable tricks or ideas through this presentation. As it has been introduced, my name is Chandu. I run a website called chandu.org, where my mission is to make people awesome in Microsoft Excel and Power BI. I have been doing this for more than a decade now, and I feel really fortunate to be able to share my knowledge and ideas with world through various mediums, including webinars like this. You can learn more about me from my website or on Twitter at R1C1, or on YouTube channel, where I update new videos every week. This is my family. Normally, whenever I do any kind of events, I would like to take them along and showcase them as well, because they get to see other parts of the world, and we all get to experience the fun. But with web events, there is no way you can do that. So I just wanted you to have a glimpse at them. They're actually downstairs. We have some friends visiting us just for dinner. So they're still talking with them, and I'm upstairs doing this session now. This is my wife Jyotsna, and we have twins Nishant and Nakshatra. They're 10 years old, and you might even think, hey Chandu, how come your face in the webcam doesn't look like the way that is here? So put some beard on the face here just to kind of make up for that. But yeah, this is pretty much what happened after New Year. I decided to just grow some beard, and then the lockdown happened. So naturally I thought, okay, I'm not going out of the house, I might as well just keep at it. And now it's just going on. I might keep it for some more time and then let's see where it goes. All right, enough about the things. Let's get into the 5 must-have charts. While I say these are 5 must-have charts for finance people, I believe these are useful techniques to have for pretty much anybody who is in the data analysis or reporting side of things. But as a finance professional, chances are you might be required to produce some of these to visualize the numbers. Now, not all finance people are required to make any kind of visuals. Most of them are happy to just make numbers. But time to time, depending on what line of work you are in, you may have to produce the outputs in some sort of graphical format. And I believe these 5 techniques will help you. These are thermometer charts, variance charts, tables, interactive charts, and forecast charts. Let's get into the Excel workbook, where we will look at all these 5 charts from a sample data. I will take some questions at the end of the session to help you answer any of these. But make a note, and you can download a copy of this workbook later if you want. But for now, I'll just switch the screen sharing to my Excel workbook here so that we can see this. So here is my Excel file. Just let me know in case you are not able to see this. But this is my 5 must-have charts for Excel people. There's a chart. Okay. Yeah, I will zoom in the data and everything in a minute. But this is the file. So what I have for you here is some sort of random data for a fictional business. And the way I put it is, I put it one data set so that we can cover all the 5 scenarios with the same data set. So we are looking at a clothing business. that sells these kind of products. It's basically a winter clothing business. So they sell socks, gloves, and scarves, and beanies, and thermals, etc. And every month they have this amount of business. Again, you could imagine this as being lakhs of rupees or thousands or hundreds or whatever. But we have some actual values. This is how much really happened for various months up until May 2020. And we also have, as with many businesses, there is a target value. This is how much we are supposed to do. For example, if you look at this number here, it is 82,171 rupees, and in target it is actually 79,706. So for that particular product line, you have actually done slightly better than the target that you have set in that month, right? So this is the data. We will use the same numbers. Again, this is random data, so it doesn't really matter what these numbers are. But just using same set of numbers means you don't have to learn new sets of data every time we look at a different example. And the first example that I have for you is budget versus actual. This is a very, very useful technique when you have two sets of numbers. One is a budget, one is actual. It could be budget versus actual. It could be actual versus target, or plan versus actual, or actual versus benchmark. Any of those kind of things that that you want to visualize, and you want to look at that. While this example itself works, you can compare this with, let's say you have some expenditures that are incurred by departments, and the budget amount that was set. You could use this technique to visualize. What the thermometer chart really indicates is it's basically a thermometer. Let me just see if I can actually get an image of thermometer. Yeah, so this is pretty much how it would look, right? You have a container and a value that is filling up. The idea is that if we reach the top, that means we have met the budget, or we have met the target and we have exceeded the expectations, else we are underperforming. So that's the metaphor that we are using for thermometer chart. So the way to create that chart is, you just select everything, and we start by inserting a chart. Now, if you look at Excel charts, there is no direct option to insert a thermometer chart. So we will go with something that is the closest to it, which is a column chart. So we will insert a column chart. We will get this kind of a picture. Now, actual is what happened, and target is what should have happened. If you look at the thermometer image there, the target is like a container and actually is filling up. So that's what we will do. We will select the target thing and we will format it so that there is no fill, but just an outline in the same color as the actual. So we will get like an outline, and then the actual is like this. Now, the easiest way to make this a thermometer is if I can bring one of these on top of another, then we will get our thermometer done. So to do that, you can pick either of these series, right click, and then format. You can also use the shortcut control and number 1 to get the same thing. And from here on the right hand side, you have some options to play with the things. For example, if you adjust the gap width, the gap between the series will increase. If you observe that, for example, 20% gap width means there is very little gap here, whereas 500% means there's too much gap. We will leave this at 100% or whatever, and let's play with series overlap. If you say negative 100%, then this gap is increasing. If you drag it all the way here, you will see that will overlap one on top of another, and it will create a thermometer effect for us. All right. So this is the basic approach for creating a thermometer chart. Now, while this might work in some situations, it's not really ideal for this data. Like if you observe, in many cases, we are exceeding the target, right? So that means this is having a situation where the thermometer itself is not visible. we could fix this problem in a couple of different ways. I'll show you the easiest way. The easiest way is to pick the actual series. And if I can format this in a slightly dull color, right? So it's not exactly the same blue color as the outline, but it is a slightly duller color. Then you can see where the gaps are and where we have exceeded the target, and that itself will make it useful. So this is one approach. All right. The second option is, many times when you are making a chart like this, you may also want to have a different color for the amount that is exceeded the target. For example, everything is blue up until here, but that little bit should be in green color. And that is something that that is quite desirable as well, to observe which particular product lines have exceeded the target. So if you want something like that, we will leave this chart here, and then Control C and Control V will make a copy of that. So the original remains here. And then in the copy chart, we will turn that little extra portion into green color. This can be done with some extra calculations done and added to the chart. Okay, so we can have actual and target, and then we will say excess. This is any amount that is above target, right? So the way we can do this is, we'll say if actual is greater than target, that means we have exceeded the target, then that number should be equal to actual. Okay, so this will give you some numbers, but other numbers will be false. We will go one extra step and simply say that is 0, so that these values where it is less than target, for example gloves, beanies and thermals, it will all be 0, whereas these other values will be there. And then rather than simply saying excess, this is where we will call it as green, because these numbers should be in green color. And then the blue would be if actually is less than target, then actual, else 0. So this will be opposite. So we will kind of split this into two sets of values. One is above 0, above target, and another is below target, right? So once you have done something like this, you can go and right click, select data. So where it says actual and target, we will keep the target, we will remove the actual, and then we will add green series with those numbers. Likewise, we will add blue series with these numbers. Okay, so we now have two colors. Okay, it's not perfect, but it will work eventually. We will just have to tweak the formulas. We will do that in a minute, but for now it is working. So we are seeing that blue is actually in gray color, so, and then green is actually in blue color. So we'll first fix the problem with green, select this and format this in green color, and then select the blue and fix that in blue color, right? So it kind of worked, but it is not perfect, because what we really wanted was all of this bar up to there should be blue, and then that little excess bit should be in green, but this is actually giving me that. That's because this number is 0. For example, if you observe here, because that is 0, it is actually doing my 827171 there, and that's what is happening. If I change the formula, rather than 0, if I say if actual is less than target, then it should be actual, else it should be target, right? And then we fill this down. We would now get this kind of a chart where it is up to here blue, and then that is green. This is almost ready. There is one extra problem, which is that line itself is not consistent. It is not same thickness all the way through. This is because that line is actually behind the other two series. So it's kind of hidden behind, and that is why that problem is happening. To fix the problem, we'll go to select data, and you can see that target is the number 1 series. So the way Excel charts are created is these 3 series are formed in the order. So target is the first series, so that means it goes all the way back, and then green, and then blue. So we select target, and if I push this down, Then target becomes the last series, hence it will be the very first on the chart layer. So you can always see that. Okay, so now I can see my target, I can see actual, and it will turn green as and when we exceed the target. So this is how you can create a thermometer chart. There are various other techniques that you can apply, but this is the basic technique. Okay, so let me see if there is any. Okay, yeah. I believe I can only see Deepak here, but just let me know if there is any questions on the YouTube stream or elsewhere. But I will just continue.
As of now, no questions, Chandru.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we will leave that there, and then let's go into the variance example here. The idea for a variance chart is exactly similar to but thermometer chart, but this one is where you are looking at the overall picture, like what happened with actual and target, and how much excess has happened in one picture. So that is what a variance chart is. Again, this is something that is very useful in finance professions, where you are always measuring performance against either parts or previous year, same month, or some other points of time, or against a target or a benchmark, and you want to see what is happening with respect to what happened and what is the variance. So the way to create this is you can select within a variance chart. You don't need to actually show the target. You can just pick the actual itself and then show the variance against actual. So we'll select this and we insert for example, we could go with the column chart, and this will create a chart like that. I will just move this further down and place it like that. Right. So this is what is happening by individual product, and that's the actual. While this lesson is meant mainly to showcase the techniques for making charts and how to think about that, you should also keep in mind that when you are making charts, you should try to get them as good looking and as informative as possible. One of the good practices whenever you are making charts is try to avoid some of the common mistakes. For example, if I am just stopping here and I'm not making any more things, I'm just stopping the actual sales figure as a chart, the things that I would try to improve irrespective of what else is going to happen is I will try to remove the axis titles that are inclined like this, because when we read, we like to read in either horizontal direction or very rarely in vertical direction. We don't like to read text that is going sideways, because we will be forced to tilt our head to make a full sense of what is happening. And this is not a very pleasant experience for your audience, because most of the time you're building these charts for your clients or customers, and you should think from their point of view and see what is the best way to communicate. So this kind of rotated axis is not good. Okay, you can fix these problems in few different ways. We'll try that. There are other challenges too, but for example, just to change the orientation itself, just select the axis from home ribbon. There is that little button there. If you click it once and then click it again, it will flip the orientation and make sure that it is horizontal, right? The problem with horizontal orientation, especially for this data, is it kind of removed some of the wordings because there is not enough space to show everything. So it kind of showed socks and then missed this one. I believe that is gloves, and then scarves, and then this is beanies. So that's missed out. One easy way to fix that is make the chart bigger. So now everything is readable. Another easy way is leave it as it is and make the text smaller. Again, readable. But neither of these methods work, then you should start thinking right chart type for it. For example, especially for products like this, I would try to make a bar chart rather than a column chart, because with a bar chart, the label will go here and it can be as long as you want. Whereas when it is here, it can be only as wide as that column that is there. So this is one thing. So for example, you just select the chart, go to insert and select bar, and that will make that. And these labels can be now, even if it is a bigger font, you can still see everything. So this is one, and it will not omit the labels, and it will not try to change the orientation automatically. So for something like this data, you should consider that. But if you are plotting months or time or anything, you should always go with columns, because we tend to think of time as a horizontal concept, not as a vertical concept. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. Irrespective of which chart you go, these are some of the things that you want to avoid. And then there are other things too, but we will stop there. And then start making this more like a variance chart, the original topic for this particular worksheet. So we'll put that, and then right, I'll make the gap width 100%, so these bars are a little more prominent. And now I want to also see what is this is how much happened, how much ahead or behind the target this is. That could be done on percentage basis or absolute value basis in rupees. So we will leave that there, and then we will select the variance amount, insert another bar chart. Okay, so this will give you those numbers there. I'll just put it next to this. Okay, I'm gonna just size this a little bit. When you are moving Excel charts, if you hold down the Alt key, it will automatically snap that to the Excel cell. I've actually removed the grid lines, but if they're grid at, it will snap them to the grid line like that. Okay. So this way you can make sure that the charts are properly aligned, and they're also uniformly sized by just holding down the Alt key, right? So we put the actual and then variance right next to each other. And now that part is done, the next part is to make sure that we just delete that axis altogether so that we can focus on the variance. Select these columns, and then we'll just make them 100% as well, and go to the fill color, fill, and I want to show positive variance because in this case, because these are selling products, if I'm selling more than target, that is good. If I'm selling less than target, that is bad, right? So I want to show good in green and bad in red color, traditional way of looking at these things. So we can select the columns and then apply invert if negative option. What this will do is it will give two different color choices for us, one for positive values, one for negative values, very, very quickly. And then I can go to the color and then say green for positive, and then the other color would be red. Okay, you can just pick that, and then this will give you the variance options there right inside the chart. So once all of these are created, you can, using shift or control, just select both charts, right click and group them so that you have created a chart group. This way you can just move them around and position them anywhere. You can even size them. It won't always work because there's other things working there, but if you size, it will size uniformly, and you now have a variance chart. You can go and add extra bells and whistles to it. For example, you can add extra grid lines or make the chart titles itself better, or rearrange the order of these items. But in general, that's pretty. In this case, we are using variance on rupee basis. If you want, you can also change it to percentage basis. Let's just say I want to look at what happened in sales, but when it comes to variance, I want to see in percentage terms. One quick way to adjust the chart data is you can select the chart, click on the series. Now, when you select the series, Excel will highlight the range where the data is coming from. Like here, this is actually highlighted in a blue color boundary. with the red color boundary saying that's the title. This is what is happening with the values. These are the values. And when you place your mouse pointer on the edge, any edge, it will turn into a plus symbol like that. And when that happens, you can click and drag to point to a new set of data, right? So this is how you can readjust the chart data sources. While it is fun, it is also kind of messes up the formatting a little bit. For example, it has forgotten the green and red color situation that we have gone. So you need to readjust that. And then that is, now we are looking at an app, instead of absolute value, we are looking at on percentage basis. And you might see a different amount of variance percentages on those values. All right, so that is variance chart. Let me see if we don't have any other chart questions, so I'll continue, right? So these are the first two techniques. In the downloadable file that you are, I will share the link at the end of the presentation. You can download the Excel file. You will see that the 1 and 2 are blank. There is only data, but no chart is built, because I consider 1 and 2 as somewhat basic types of Excel charts. So there's not a lot of mystery, and I'm encouraging you to kind of build them on your own. And if you get stuck, you can always refer to the additional resources links, and you will be able to get some extra pointers on where those are. Variance color. Yeah, sure. I think this is referring to the green and red color thingy. So yeah, the way to do this is, I'll show it to you in an isolated chart. You can make a bar chart like this. This is turning positive and negative values. Everything is shown like that. But you can say, oh, this is good, but I want to see positive in green, negative in red. All you have to do is select the columns or bars and click on from the format data series, invert if negative, and then just say green color. And once you select green, it will automatically show another color saying, so what is the negative color should be. And you can pick red or whatever, and then that will give you that. So this is how we have done that there. All right, so as I was telling, 1 and 2, we have data in the presentation, but 3, 4, 5, I've already built everything so that it's easy for you to kind of watch it and reverse engineer if you are needing that help. So let's go into 3. 3 is a table. This is not really technically a chart, but many times as finance people, we are expected to produce big tables of numbers and data. So how do you make sure that those tables are looking good and presentable, right? Because it's just some bunch of numbers, then it doesn't really look that great. So for example, take these numbers alone. It has everything that you need to know, but it is kind of very monotonous and very hard to see really what is happening. So how do you make it more interesting and useful? So this is where tables come in handy. This is one such table. You can use any number of different techniques, but normally the techniques that I follow are have a different theme for the heading of the table. So something like a different color background and bold text. Keep in mind that these tables are not same as insert table in Excel. Those tables are good for input data. That is, you enter some information or you maintain some information. That is where that table comes in handy. But when you are presenting an output, because usually outputs come from formulas or calculations, table is not a good place to have such things. So this is a classic example of an output table where you either present it or you print it. And yeah, as I was saying, headings in a different color and some sort of thick bold formatting so that they can stand apart, and text or values that just go in one row at a time with alternative color rows in a slightly different background. So this is normally known as zebra shading. so that it's easy to read, especially if I'm looking at a value and I'm seeing this 307. I want to know what product that is. I just have to track the white color, and that makes it easy. Whereas if there is no zebra color, like if I just say no fill, it's sometimes when you are reading this number, and if you want to know whether this belongs to thermal or beanies or jackets, you may lose track a long way, especially on a large table with multiple columns. So for that reason, it's always a good idea to keep that kind of alternative rows in a different color. Okay, there are different ways to do that. The easiest way that I normally do, this is how I do it, is let's start with no fill. I just select the second row, fill it with a dull shade of gray color, and then select the first two rows, click on Format Painter, and just select everything else, and Excel will automatically switch the black, white, and gray color scheme all the way through. So this is how you can apply the formatting consistently. You can do that for everything, not just colors, currency formatting, and whatnot. So that is how that part is. And then we will let's take a look at this bit here. What this is showing is whether we have met target or not. And this one is done by looking at variance as a percentage basis and then applying conditional formatting icon. So I've applied this rule where a green color tick mark is applied when it is positive and red color cross mark is shown when it is negative. So the way to apply these rules is, it's very, very easy to apply these rules. All you have to do is you need to have some variance values here. I'll just show you with the raw calculation, which is actual divided by target minus 1. So that is how that variance will be calculated, and some variances will be positive, some will be negative. We can just apply percentage, so you can see in percentage basis, and then select all of these, go to conditional formatting icon and apply that rule. It will automatically apply. Now notice how the icons from here do not match what is there. This is because the way by default Excel will apply this is, it will show green arrows for green icons for 1/3 values, red for 1/3, and other 1/3 of percentile values in that exclamation mark. That's not normally what you want. You want to have positive in green and negative in red. That's and then if there is any zero, then exclamation. So to fix that problem, all we have to do is manage that particular rule, double click to edit it, and just change the nature of rule. It's very simple. It might look a bit cryptic, but you don't want the rule based on percentage. You want to rule based on numbers, and simply say green when value is greater than 0, X when value is red less than 0, and this value becomes equal to 0. So that will come up. And because I just wanted an icon, I don't want to really have like the percentage value itself. I've selected this again. To rules and not the whole thing, and that's how that comes up. Likewise, you can add year-to-date totals that will add up all the values in 2020, and then you can also even show trend through the beautiful spark lines feature in Excel. The way spark lines work is they are tiny charts that fit into a cell, and then they show trend of what is happening, etc. So using this, I can understand what is happening with my socks product line, whether the sales have been consistently going up or they're going up and down and whatnot, and get a good sense of what is happening. Creating them is really simple. All you have to do is select a bunch of numbers. For example, I'll show you how to make spark lines for that data here. So we have some numbers here. All I have to do is select all the numbers and then say insert and spark lines line, and Excel will ask you, so where do you want these lines? We'll say I want the lines there, and Excel will give you those lines there. You can have data in one place, lines in another place as well. So that's what I have done. These lines come from my original data set here. once you have the line, you can select any cell with the spark line, and you can apply all the formatting options like change the color. You can even enable high point and low point so that it will show you best month and worst month for sales in a different pointers, etc. And you can even change the coloring of those things. Just have a play with that and you will understand that. So that's the third particular chart that you can use as a finance professional. I believe these three are like essential, especially if you are a finance professional who is also doing a little bit of reporting or data analytics and presentation side of things. If you are somebody who is working in finance but you don't have to make a chart, chances are you're not even watching this presentation. So this is not something that you need to worry. All right. The fourth one is interactive chart. As I said, these charts all grow in kind of difficulty. So the fourth one is, I consider this is slightly more complicated, but the idea here is many times when you are presenting data, you have a situation where you have to show more than there is data, and then you want to be able to add some sort of a control so that users can actually interact with the data and get what they want rather than showing everything. So that's what interactive charts are. There is a chart message, so let me just check. Yeah, Deepak was asking, can you show the last part? I'll go back to that at the end. There's a question about removing the text from the show icon only option in conditional formatting, which we will go at the end. So as I was saying, the interactive charts, these are good for presenting information where there is too much data in the charts and you want to be able to control what is being shown. That's where interactive charts are very good. So here is one example where we are looking at the trends of sales across all the product lines for the last 13 months. So from May 2019 to May 2020. And with so many lines, it's hard to really focus, right? So for example, if I were to just select everything and make a line chart, I'll get something like this. Oops, Control C. So I'll get something like this. This is incredibly hard to read. Like you don't really know what is happening. I mean, granted that these are random numbers, but even with the real data, with so many lines, it is very, very hard to focus on exactly what is happening. It just looks like a lot of confusion. So this is where having an ability to say, okay, show me just this line or that line will be useful. But as a backdrop of everything might help you. So that's what this particular chart is. It is showing me the overall sales trend. But I've now picked jackets, so I'm seeing that. But if I want to see raincoats or scarves or beanies, I can click on that and I can see that particular product line along with what happened in May 2020 and whether that sales in May 2020 are down or up compared to the very first month, that is May 2019. And so year on year, whether they have gone up or down and by what percentage. So that's what an interactive chart is. Because the process for creating such charts is fairly, it's not complicated, it just takes a bit of time to build them. I won't be going into all the specifics, but instead I want you to be aware that these types of charts are available and they're not very difficult to create. I will walk through the process for creating this chart at a very high level, and then we can, if you have questions, feel free to refer to the home page and in the examples that are here in the additional resources section. And there is more interactive charts and dynamic charts examples on my website as well. But let's go here and understand the nuts and bolts of this. So the way I've done it is started by making a normal line chart. So this is the version 1 of that. We make a normal line chart, but instead of having different colors for each line, I made sure that all the lines are dull gray colored lines. So we select each line, apply the formatting of a gray colored line. So like that. So you do it for one line, you have to repeat that step for all the other lines. The easiest way is you do for one line, you select the other line and press F4 key. This will repeat that step, that last formatting steps that you have done. So you don't have to kind of go and do the same thing again and again. What F4 does is, especially when you are formatting or anything, it redos your activity. So just the last activity we did is apply the color, so it repeats that. Once you did this, then the next step is select any line and change the width of the line to 0.25 points. So that means it's a very, very thin line. And again, using the F4 trick, repeat that on all the lines. So this is how I'm able to get all the lines to be just very, very dull and faded into the background. So once this is done, I have then created another set of numbers. This is based on what is being selected. But we need to have now a selection mechanism. So this is where a pivot table is useful. What I've done is I've added this data to Excel pivot table. There is a pivot tab here, and applied product line as a slicer. So that's what it is, a slicer. And when you click on that slicer, it will change the value inside the pivot table. So this is how I am using that to select the value, and then I'm using the pivot table's A4 cell to drive my calculations. So here we are using pivot table slicer to pick a value, and as soon as you select beanies, the pivot will show me beanies here, and that's what is being appeared here as well, because it is actually a reference to pivot table A4 cell, which is that cell that you have seen there. So once that is there, using some simple VLOOKUP or any other formulas, here I'm actually using XLOOKUP, which will get me the value for that month for beanies as well, and then all the months. So once all of these are there, we will select this set of data, copy that, select the chart, paste it. So this is how you can add extra data to charts as well. You can copy and paste data into chart. So copy any set of numbers and select the chart and paste it, and it will add that extra data to the chart. And once you paste, it will come as a new series. Because it is a new series, it will not inherit any of the existing format. It will just go with default formatting. So we'll select this line, and we will make that a blue color, same as our slicer. And that's pretty much how that particular thing is done. Now, if I click on raincoats, that line changes. Even this line is changing because it's all done through formulas. Okay. So once that is done, you can remove any additional bells and whistles like the legend at the bottom and all of that. What about this little label? It's again very easy. All you have to do is add labels. But when you select any series and add labels, it will add labels to all the items in the series. That means all the points in the line will get a label. Instead, if you select the line and if you click on the very last point again, now you add label. You're only adding label to the very last point. So you add the label, and the label value, we will set it through some sort of a formula so that we are showing both what happened in the last month and how much it is up or down compared to previous month. Please examine the Excel file that you can download at the end of this session so that you can understand that bit. I don't want to drag this on because we do have limited time, and this might get a bit more elaborative. Same thing for the titles as well. You can add titles that are instead of simple title like actual or something, you can, instead of saying actual, for example, I can click on the formula bar and say equal to and select any cell. That will be the title of that particular chart because it's now linked. So where it says product line, I can put something in that. That's what my chart will say. So this is how that particular chart has a title that is much more elaborative than this. Let me just see the chart window here. So somebody is asking, how are interactive charts different from time series charts? And I'm not really sure what exactly is a time series chart. The interactive chart refers to a special technique where you are making a chart that is interactive. That means users can interact with that and click on values to see. What I am demonstrating here is one of the many ways to have this interactive. While this chart happens to show like time series kind of data because you have time and sales. It's not necessarily that interactive charts apply to only time series data sets. You can use them for other types of data sets. Like you could make a pie chart interactive, you could make a bar column chart or XY chart, anything interactive for that matter, because the whole concept of interactive charts is using tools like slicers or form controls to be able to control what goes into the way chart is presented. Okay, so maybe if you just Google the term or visit my website and search for interactive charts, chances are you will get more examples that confusion will go away. The last example that I have for you is forecasting. Now, this is also something that as a finance professional, you from time to time you are expected to talk about these things because you are supposed to have a deep understanding of the business and what is happening, so that people might ask you, hey, given this, what could be the future value? Can you forecast? Can you simulate or model that? And traditionally, the way, for example, if you are forecasting a cash flow statement or a profit loss statement or something, that forecasting is usually done at a very rudimentary level, unless you are building some very, very complicated models. So we usually just take like a percentage based forecast, like, every year this will go up by 6% or 3% or 0.05% or whatever, and then we just do it. And that's normally a simple way to build up things, because there are multiple line items each having different numbers. When you add up, it'll work. But there is more complicated forecasting built into Excel nowadays. It has gotten more and more smarter. So here I want to showcase how to forecast data that uses both seasonality and change in pattern kind of a thing. The way the technical term for this is exponential time series. So what it essentially means is, let's say you are selling winter clothing. That's what this business is, right? The numbers here are randomly made up, but winter clothing businesses do follow a seasonal trend. The way this works is, winter clothing businesses tend to do a lot of business. Let's say if this is happening in India, then they might be doing a lot of business between the months of October to January. And then the sales for the winter clothing might go down, or they might stay at a different level compared to the peak winter months in India, right? So there is a definite seasonal pattern that is going on. Like every year in October, November, December, you will sell more than let's say in the middle of summer, right? So if you are doing a simple percentage forecast, it's not going to provide any valuable insight, because it's not really changing 2% every month. Some months it can go up, some months it can go down, right? So how do we do that kind of forecasting? So that's what the exponential time series thing really refers to. So it will look at what is happening and isolate the seasonality and then the actual pattern, and then forecast based on that. I'll show you the easy method and then the advanced method. Both methods are provided here. The easy method is, let's say these are the numbers and I just want to forecast it out for next 3 months or 6 months. All I have to do is select the data, go to data, and there is a forecast sheet button. Click on it and Excel will look at this data, and then it will say, oh, given these numbers, I'm forecasting that this is how the next 3 months forecast is going to look like until September 2020. Okay, you can play with this. You can have extra options. For example, it will also give confidence intervals. These indicate that Excel is saying, I'm 95% sure that the value will be anywhere between this and that, right? Again, Excel has no idea what you are selling here, what these numbers mean, none of that. It's simply using statistical methods to identify the seasonal patterns that are happening and say that given this kind of movements, this is what is going to happen. As you could see, because these are random numbers, essentially it has kind of come up to the mean or average value and stayed pretty much there with a little bit of upward swing for this data. You can change the confidence intervals. You can also say whether you want to stop at September or go all the way up to December, and it will be able to add that much forecast. And when you are happy with this, if you say create, it will add a new worksheet with all the number crunching and the final chart. So this is the easy method. That means you have numbers, you can just do it, right? It's the easy method because it works for one set of data, and it is simply screen features where you select something, and then it'll create the output for you. But it's not very dummy either. If you look at these cells, they all have formulas there that tell you how exactly that number is calculated. The key formula here is forecast.ets. ETS stands for exponential time series. And this one uses the statistical methodology to identify both the seasonality and then any other pattern that is happening, and I isolate them and then apply that when forecasting. But because these are formulas, if you know how to write that formula, you can actually build a forecast that is a much more controlled or refined and even make it interactive. So that's what the advanced method is. In advanced method, we are writing that formula through forecast.ets formula here. Because this data happens to be growing sideways, not down. If you observe here, it is actually going down, whereas our original data is going sideways. So I've used forecast.ets like this, and I calculated the numbers, and then I can create a chart that has different formatting to my liking, and even add some extra bits like, expect sales to grow 10% in the next 6 months for gloves, right? So this is how you can apply that kind of a technique. So somebody is asking, there are 3 different methods for forecasting: moving average, exponential smoothing, and something else. So can we regression? Yeah, again, all the statistical techniques that you might learn in a college or elsewhere, they can all be done through Excel. Moving averages and other types of techniques are fairly simple to achieve. You don't even need to use anything. You can just make for example, I'll show you how a moving average technique can be applied. We can select a chart, insert, and click on the plus button, add trend line. It will add a normal linear trend line. So you could say that is basically a linear regression. And then instead of select the trend line, apply from the trend line options. Instead of linear, you can apply a moving average, and that will give you a moving average. You can say, okay, my moving average window is 3 periods or 6 periods or whatever, and it will give you that. With the moving average method, you are not able to actually forecast. It will only add a moving average trend line. But if you want to add a moving average basic trend line, essentially you will have to write formulas to calculate moving average and then do it. Again, these all sound fairly technical, but they're all very, very easy to do, because moving average really means you have a window of 3 or 4 values and you just move that down when you're averaging in. And once you know what that average is, you use that average to kind of do the forecasting. Whereas with the linear kind of forecasts, you can do a forecast for next 4 periods. I'm not a huge fan of linear or forecasts or regression type forecasting, mainly because most business data does not really fall into a line pattern. They tend to be much more variable than that. So for that purpose, it's advisable that you use the forecast.ets method, because it is fairly robust. What it does is depending on how your data is, it will automatically do the best thing for it. So if your data is linear, it will do linear forecasting. If your data is seasonal, like up and down, it will do time series forecasting, which will also have inbuilt moving average component anyway. So for most cases, the forecast.ets function is better. There is also other forecast functions that you can use. You could use simple forecast method itself. Forecast.linear is also available. Likewise, there is more complicated estimation tools available called linest and logest and etc. And it's basically a deep rabbit hole, so I don't want to get into that, but all of these are possible within Excel. So that's the fifth chart, which is to have some sort of ability to forecast. Again, I believe these 5 are at different levels of complexity depending on where you are finding yourself. One of the trickiest things of doing a webinar style presentation rather than face-to-face is sometimes you don't really know exactly how much of your sharing is really going in. So if you are not able to follow along, feel free to leave a comment. Otherwise, I am just assuming all of this is fine, or maybe it's too trivial for some people. But yeah, those are the 5 must-have charts in my opinion for people working in finance. I'll now look for some questions, and Mohit asks, can we create geographical country map chart be done in Excel? Yes, Excel now has built-in capability to have map charts. This is useful, but it is also somewhat annoying in my opinion. Let's just try something for fun. I'm going to have state number, and we'll just put some random data here. I'll start with my state, which is Andhra Pradesh, and then I hope some of you have already tried the features like geography, etc. As I'm typing this, Excel is saying, oh, looks like you are doing some geography. You know, these are like geography. Do you want me to convert these into geographies? Which I've now done. So we have Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, Gujarat. Let's use Maharashtra and okay, let's stop this. And how many are there? 7 values, right? I'll make some random numbers between 100 and 300, and we will just fill this down. So we have some numbers and state. It's not really powerful. Like you cannot have values by city or anything. So you can't say Hyderabad, New Delhi, and Ahmedabad, and Mumbai and Pune. It has to be solid states. So this is what we've selected. And if you insert a map chart, it doesn't really work. You might, oh, it finally worked. But this is the problem with the chart. The way I am finding it is, it is kind of hit and miss. But earlier I was actually trying to build a chart for India, and it would almost never show this particular state. I believe it's either Himachal Pradesh or Uttaranchal, one of those. But it would never show that, and now it is showing that. So that's good, and it will show me the numbers by that. So we can now add Karnataka, and put some numbers there. Yeah, and then the other technique that I showed, which is like you can extend the thing, you can apply this as well, and it will probably take some time depending on how good your internet connection is or whatever, but eventually the thing will show up, and it will come up. So this is how you can create map charts in Excel. They're very good for showing values at a state level, but not at individual city level or district level or panchayat level or anything like that. But this is fairly good.
Chandu,
Yeah.
the state of Jammu Kashmir.
Yeah. No comments, because this map is actually coming from Microsoft. So the way this is all done is it's just whatever the map data is being provided on the live systems, that is what comes up here, and it will show up. Let's see, there's some more questions here. The question may not be relating charts, but what is more powerful, VBA, macros, or Power Query? If I only need to select one, which one should I prefer? I would probably start with Power Query, because many times people get into VBA without first appreciating or realizing what Excel itself can do. So yeah, a good place to start is Power Query. Even better is to just first get a good understanding of what is available to you in Excel itself, right out of the box, without even getting into any of those behind screens kind of things. But the next logical step is definitely Power Query, because it will give you those extra things that you can use to quickly automate many of the data collection, cleanup, consolidation, reconciliation styles of tasks. Especially people who are working in finance world, we tend to be working with the data that is in multiple places all the time. Just to give you one simple example, I run a small business. So what I do is I get most of my business transactions and everything, they go through my credit cards, and at the end of the financial year I will have to compile all my revenue is easy, because I just have to look at my bank statements and identify all the transactions that are coming in through my payment gateway, and that's my revenue, and they all follow the same pattern. But whereas expenditure, this is incurred mostly on my credit cards, right? And the credit card statements are usually not so flexible. Like a bank stat transactions, I can get it as an Excel file, but my credit card company insists on giving me PDF with all the transactions. So what I do is I use Power Query to process all the credit card statements in PDF, extract all those transactions, and give me one clean table in Excel or Power BI, so that I can then tag the transactions and say, oh, this is business expenditure, this is my personal expenditure, and then use it for calculating my profit or even filing my tax returns. So that's a good place to start, especially if you are getting on with it. How to show profit loss statement in a chart. There is one other obvious chart that a finance professional normally want to learn, which is a waterfall chart. I've not shown it because this tends to be something that is so obvious that most of you would kind of know this, but we could use waterfall charts to showcase profit loss statements. Let me show you one very, very simple example of a P&L statement. Let's just say we start with revenue of, I don't know, 3,000, and then you could have different expenditures that go from it, and then you will end up with eventual profit, right? So we could have salaries. This is minus 500, rent minus 300, other OPEX minus 400, and then MISC expenditure minus 200. And then profit is basically a sum of all these numbers. This is a very, very simple, really bare bones kind of a statement. You select all of this, you go to insert, and then click on waterfall chart. This will show you how that particular profit loss statement looks like. It's not perfect because the default setup is it will just assume everything is adding up. So even profit is shown like floating. what you will do is you will select the profit bar and then using this thing and then just set it as a total. And that will give you a nice little visualization to see how the P&L is, because usually in P&L you have some positive values and some negative values, and then the end result is profit or whatever, and you can visualize like this. So that's your waterfall chart here. You can apply that. Yeah, Priyanka says this is really good and straight to the point. Thank you so much, Priyanka. I hope you enjoyed it. And yes, please download the file and have a play with that, because there is a lot to condense. And yeah, usually when I run a webinar myself, I have a good idea who is coming in, because this is actually handled by Excel in Excel and Deepak. I'm not 100% sure what kind of people are going to come in, and there has been a lot of we try to communicate quite often, but unfortunately I've gotten busy with few other projects, so I couldn't really keep up with exactly where it is at. So I wasn't really sure who is attending, so I decided to go at 5 different charts and it might have worked. Okay, let's see other comments. Arun Kumar Sundaram says, where do we fix the assumptions in forecasting chart? As I said, this particular forecast chart, it's not using assumptions, it is actually following the trend. So it's not really asking you, is it going to be 10% more? Because those forecasts are, in my opinion, well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not really, like, that doesn't require a lot of, you're not really doing much. You're just multiplying 1 plus 10%, 1 plus 5% kind of thing. So there is no mystery there. So that's why I didn't show that. What we have here is to solve more complicated problem of having a trend and just understanding that and extrapolating those values. So that's what this is. Thanks, Vinay. Thanks for the good feedback as well. Let me just switch back to the presentation here. I will so in case you want to download the file, just visit this web page, chandu.org/WP5 charts, and that will just take you to the Excel file. If you put that into browser URL, you should start the download immediately. As I said, the file will not have any of the actual charts that I built during the presentation, but everything for 3 and 4 and 5, those full examples will be there. 1 and 2 will be just data sets and blank place for you to create those charts. I highly recommend checking the resources section, because there will be some interesting charts there for you to use as well. And yeah, in case you are looking for some sort of more similar but more advanced training and more slower version of things, as well as ability to learn at your own pace, then please consider my online course called Excel School Program. But it's not mandatory. You don't have to go for that course. But if you are looking for some sort of an online course, then this is something that you should definitely consider. And it is fairly thorough, and it goes through all aspects of data analysis and reporting through Excel. What data set is more than making system hang? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, please. Somebody's talking.
She has a data set which is more than 50 MB.
Yeah.
She is considered to use Power Query in Excel or Power Query in Power BI. Her Excel.
Yeah.
Excel generally hangs in Excel. The query generally hangs in Excel.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So normally with such large data sets, it may be a good idea to start with Power BI, and also start thinking more along the lines of what is needed for me to do my analysis, right? Do I need to have all the 50 MB of data to produce a particular outcome, or I only need a set of it, or I only need parts of it from beginning and end or middle or whatever? This is really important, right? Many times you might be tempted to bring everything and then start analyzing. But as the size grows, you should really start thinking what is needed, what business questions am I answering, and then go from there to data. This is why one of the critical things that I teach in most of my courses or even on my blog is you should always start with the what, right? What do I need? What business questions am I answering? What challenges am I addressing? And then go from there. Because if the question is, for example, just to answer what is the total sales, you don't need 50 megabyte of data. You need the summary of 50 megabytes of data. So those are two different things, and that's that. But in case you have to get everything, then a better option would be to start at Power BI, because I believe at the data model level, technically both Excel and Power BI data models should be similarly optimized, but Power BI is basically built for this kind of thing. It is supposed to handle even larger sets of data on mediocre computers. So there are things built into that that are not part of Excel things. So yeah, I would start with Power BI and then go from there.
Chandu, there's one more question from Mr. Vinod Jain from Kuwait. He is asking, can waterfall chart include the target and actual in one chart? Can we include target and actuals using waterfall?
Yeah, the built-in waterfall chart is not customizable in that sense, but you can make something that is more looking like waterfall by customizing Excel's own charts. I would not recommend a waterfall that has two sets of data, like actual or target, like that, because they tend to be very hard to read. And not every item on the waterfall would have both options, right? Some of them may have target and actual, but others may not have that wording or that kind of sense. So it will create a more complicated version of, like, it makes your audience's life very hard to read that chart with two sets. And traditionally, anybody looking at waterfall chart from a business or finance perspective, they always expect one series. Like, I've almost never seen in my life a waterfall chart with two series of target actual kind of thing. But again, I'm not a 100% finance person, and I don't work full time, so I have no visibility into what is being built or requested by audiences all the time. That said, I personally believe that would be a very hard chart to read as well as even build in Excel. But it is possible. If you want to create that, then not the built-in version of waterfall. You would have to create that through using column charts and invisible series and all of that.
Would you like to take one more question, not related to today's topic? No this is more on how to solve multiple data connection error in Power Query.
How to solve multiple data connection error? Can you give more context? Like, when is this happening?
This is from a audience Gopi.
Maybe if he's still around, can you please ask him to elaborate the question?
Sure. Good, Chandu. I just want to share, I was also a student of your online classes.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I'm happy to have you on the session. Thank you for
so glad I could be here, and I'm really enjoying this, as well as
your dedication shows it is midnight at your place. I have seen you at London Excel meetup, waking at 4:30 and proceeding.
Yeah, I love doing these, and in fact, we advertised this as like English and Hindi, but I completely forgot to talking in Hindi. I hope nobody is expecting me to speak in Hindi, because I can speak in Hindi. It's just that I don't even remember about that now. I think halfway through my presentation, I thought.
Chandu has replied, when we are linking the data from different sources, it shows an error from different sources.
Yes. So what was the error again?
Multiple data connection error. Example, he's linking via Power BI and also via a flat file.
It might be just a privacy thing, because usually Power BI doesn't like to have two different privacy levels mixed up. So for example, if I take a flat file on my computer, and then if I'm trying to mix that or merge or append that or even do any other kind of operations with that on a data set that is coming from a database or a website or anything else, then Power BI insists that it is crossing two different privacy levels, right? Anything on your computer is at highest privacy. Anything on network is at a different privacy, and then open web is a third privacy level. So when things are crossing over, Power BI doesn't like it, but it would require either ignoring the privacy levels, which you can do from file menu in Power Query, or it will show a warning. So I'm actually I don't remember exactly what warning that is, but I don't think it is the different data sources error, but it could be that as well. But yeah, that would be the first point that I'll check, that whether the if it is actually privacy warning, then just ignore the privacy warning, because you know what you are doing, so there is no threat to your computer or anything like that.
One last question. This is from Mr. Arun Kumar. Interactive chart is similar to pivot table, where when we double click and do a drill down.
You can say that these are actually basically interactive chart refers to a class of techniques that are essentially like providing user an ability to talk to your file and get more out of it, right? If I'm presenting something, there is nothing to do, then this is what my audience is getting. They have no ability to say, oh, what is happening here or what is happening there. If they have question, they will have to call you back or email you or talk to you. Whereas an interactive chart is like they are talking to the chart and they're getting the answer. So anytime you are building anything that has the ability to interact is essentially interactive. So we can say, yes, Power pivot tables are also interactive, because you can drill down and get the details.
Thank you, Chandu. Even Faraz was there for a short time.
Oh, cool.
Faraz Shak, and Sharon from Excelism was also there. Thank you for your time. And once again,
thank you.
Thank you once again.
On behalf of Excel in Excel, we are so happy to have an opportunity to learn a lot from your session. Thank you for sharing your wisdom to us and our audience. It was concise and precise. I am sure the participants will feel enriched with your knowledge sharing. It was an outstanding presentation and highly informative.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to come here and talk to your audience as well. I had so much fun, and yeah, if there is any other questions that we couldn't catch up, feel free to just point them to me on YouTube, and I'm happy to go in and comment as well. And I hope you made a note of the link where that file is, and yeah, I'll email a copy to Deepak anyway.
We will share the link in the YouTube video in the description also.
Okay.
Thank you, Chandu.
Yeah, thank you, Deepak. Thank you so much.
Just a few announcements for the future session. Just a few.
Yeah, sure.
I also thank the audience for your support and participation and taking your time out to attend the session. Few announcements to our participants. Our next session will be on Friday, 12 June 2020. Timing 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. The topic of the session is New Finance Skills to Adopt During Digital Era. by Mr. Pratik Kapoor, Director, Transformation and Automation, Center of Excellence, AON. We're also keen to know your inputs, topic suggestions for future sessions. You can drop your suggestions in the chat box on YouTube. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe our channel, and last but not the least, also share among your friends and colleagues. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chandu.
Thanks, Deepak. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah,
we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.